Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Beyond the Frontline. I am one of your co-hosts, Jay Johnson, and you're just stuck with me today. Well, not solely me. I have an incredible guest, somebody who's a dear friend and a professional colleague. But as far as hosting, I know you're probably shocked, but it's just me. The queen of the podcast, Miss Donna Hoffmeyer, is out traveling the globe, the blue marble, and I don't even know. It's a little bit like Where's Waldo? I don't know where Donna is at any given time, but what I do know is I hope that this podcast finds each and every one of you listening, doing well, that you're taking a moment. This is not corny to me, listeners, by the way. If you've been with us for a while, you know this is my heart. Not corny to me to say I hope you momentarily take pauses in life once in a while just to reflect on what's right rather than the challenges that may lie before you. I think expressing gratitude is a game changer. And so if you haven't done that yet today, don't leave. Finish listening to this episode because you're going to get a lot of goodness from this one. I know you will. But as soon as you take a break from this episode, I want you to just stop and reflect on a couple things that are going well, going right. You know, I'm a professional coach. I've shared that with all of you before, and I spent a lot of times working inside companies, but in all of my coaching sessions, whenever we step into that space together, me and whomever I'm working with, we always begin the same way. I ask them to pause and tell me, share something with me that's going right? What's happened good since the last time we were together? And I just think it changes our brains, right? The chemistry and our outlook on things. So we do that, and then we get to the heavy lifting, right? That we all can do when we're in that space. So that's a little bit of my introductory kind of hello and welcome back to the episode. If I didn't say so, you know, we have a parent network called Coming Home Well that this podcast falls under. So if you're listening, I'm just going to say it up front. I'll say it at the end. Man, smash the like button, share, get out there, find Coming Home Well, give them a like, follow, because there are so many podcasts under this network that, you know, are veteran focused for sure, but you don't have to have been a veteran in order to listen and find value within. So please share it across your social channels and offer a thanks even to Coming Home Well. They would appreciate it. Well, I am joined in studio today by someone who has made an impact on my life. We had a happenstance introduction years ago. I don't know. I'm just going to guess and say it might have been as many years ago as 7 if I had to take a WAG at it. And I think all veterans know what WAG stands for, a wild blank guess. But anyways, you know, I was hosting a leadership conference every year, ginning it back up this year, as a matter of fact. Took last year off for the first time in 9 years. But this group and I that would come together to host these things, we would take some of the profits from the event and try to give back to organizations in the community. And at the time, my guest today was working for the food bank, the local food bank, in that nonprofit space. And we met, we instantly connected, and I think we've been friends ever since. And you're going to see why, right? Because anyone who meets him, there's no way that you can't quickly become a fan, a raving fan, and a friend of Mr. Louie Guzman. Louie is a 22-year Air Force veteran. I shared with you he's been in the nonprofit space a long time. We're going to dive into some of that. Today he works as a community investment partner. I want you to hear what this is about. It's very cool, for a charitable organization called the Kronkosky Foundation. So without further ado, everybody, Louie, how are you, my dear friend?
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you? So thank you for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to join you today.
Man, it's always an honor and a pleasure. We don't get together often anymore, Louie. On occasion, we're usually two ships passing, right? Passing in the night because you're a really busy man and I always have a lot going on. But I know this whenever we're at an event together, right? I'll see you across the room, or maybe we just have a happenstance bump into each other through a crowd. I always enjoy the time I just get to sit and interact with you.
Me as well. I learned so much from you, very impactful in without knowing like you're a mentor. Like, and I see and follow you on social media and the things you're doing. It definitely inspiring on the work you're doing in leadership and talking about a servant leader.
Thanks, Louie. I appreciate the feelings are mutual. So, Louie, I give just a teaser, right? You want to share your heart, a little bit of your upbringing, your time in service, right, in the Air Force, and then we'll start peeling some layers back into the nonprofit arena and things you're doing today. Tell us a little bit about you, Louie.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Born in California, Los Angeles. My mom moved out there, and so she got married. Had my stepfather. Had four brothers and two sisters in our family. So, incredibly large family. We moved back to the state of Texas, where my mom was from, San Antonio. My grandfather was getting ill, and so we came back to take care of him. In his passing, my dad is from California, Bakersfield. My stepdad, I should say. And so we went back and forth a few years. My mom says, you know what, we got to plant roots. We got another kid on the way. Like every year we're having children. So I had a new sibling every year for so many years. And so my dad said, let's just stay. We'll stay in San Antonio. We inherited my grandfather's home in Commerce, Texas, not too far from Randolph Air Force Base.
Yeah, it's close to where I'm at right now, Louie.
Exactly. And so I think that led to my desire to serve in the military, always seeing the planes go overhead and being so close to Randolph Air Force Base. So went to Judson High School within Commerce, did ROTC, junior ROTC at Judson High School, and never knew what my plan was. I had a job, and one day I just said, I got to get out of here. I got to leave. It wasn't a bad situation, but when you grow up underserved, and these words weren't back then, you were just poor back then.
I hear you.
We always had everything that we wanted. Not so much wanted, we had what we needed to get by, food on the table. It wasn't a great variety, but it was something to put in your stomachs. And so, and all the different things and aspects that we'll talk about later on, the connection to the nonprofit world, I think that really resonated with me on the different things that were happening. Like, I didn't want to be a burden on the community, or not to community, to my family. So joining the military was a great way to, one, take the burden of resources out of being dedicated to me, to go to my siblings, join the military, start a career. I only wanted to do 4 years, and that was my thought. I'll do 4 years and then I'm out. But as fate may have it, the military sent me to Alaska. It's my first assignment.
Heartbreaker. Somebody had to do it, Louie.
Yes. So went up to Alaska. I would say I had leaders in the sense that they were over me. It wasn't until later on that a true mentor stepped in, and I got deployed to Guam out of when the evacuation of the Philippines was happening. And so I had a Tech Sergeant Mendez, who was our team chief. And he's like, hey, when you get back, the intention is to release you from the military. Like, you don't fit in. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't hang out with the crowd. Like, you're not in the in crowd, you're just quiet. And I was you would never guess it, but I was very timid back then. I'm very quiet, very insecure, not confident. Being one of seven, like, you had to fight for your space. And I would just draw down and just kind of be Louie in the corner and just be myself and just not really draw attention to myself. And so when he told me that, he, being a Hispanic or a Latino leader, and he said, look at yourself, like, you're tall, you carry yourself well, but you got to have a voice. You really need to be able to say something to somebody. And he gave me some key advice back then that kind of resonates with me today is, say whatever you want to say to anybody, as long as it's truthful and as long as you're respectful. You can tell anybody everything. And so that kind of leaped me into, when I got back to the base from our deployment, I remember her name. I don't know if I can say it, but I'll just say it was a captain, and we'll just call her Captain A. And so I remember she pulled me in. She says, Sergeant Mendez says that you're not the person that I identified you as. So what is your story? And so as she got to know me as Louie versus Airman Guzman that just showed up at her base, and wasn't participating in the drinking and the smoking and hanging out and just being a team player. She considered that team player. To me, team player is work related, not the additional things of just having fun with the team is different for me. And I've never been that guy. And so when she understood that, she's like, well, you might be good for the Air Force, but not just for our unit or not so much the unit, but our department. So she moved me into another area. And that was launching me into, Louie, you can't tell anybody anything. And so I moved up in the ranks into within the organization. I was at a cargo terminal. Now I think they're called at the time was Air Transportation Operations Control, so ATOC. For those Army and folks that know, if you ever were deployed, you would go through an air passenger terminal, your cargo moved to their cargo terminal. So I was one of the youngest folks in Elmendorf to be moved into that role as a two-striper. And it just gave me a voice, it gave me a sense of belonging. And Colonel Mole, who I will always identify, took me in, and he would walk around on the weekends in socks and said, this is my home. I treat this as my home. You're my family. So he really gave me that sense of take ownership of your unit, of the work you do, of everything you do. And so when I got orders, he's like, hey, if you want to stay, I'll keep you here longer. Like, and I was like, oh, I would love to. Like, he was the perfect commander for my style of leadership that was inclusive and give you affirmations on a daily basis when he would see you. And I was like, no, I think it is time to go because, you know, officers rotate faster than enlisted do sometimes. And so I was like, I'll extend and then you'll be gone. And I don't know what's coming next. So I'd rather take the chance and a leap of faith. And I came to Lackland Air Force Base, or Kelly Air Force Base at the time.
Yeah.
Had great leaderships there. Got to learn the civilian dynamic of civilian workforce blended in with military. Spent out of 22 years, spent 18 of that here in San Antonio through Kelly Lackland. Did my deployments, always having great leaders and understanding. You don't fight leadership, you give them what they want. Like you give a leader, they set the expectations. If you give it what they want, then you won't have heartache, or everybody likes to cut against the grain and hold to themselves. You can be who you are and still be within the concept of the team. So I did that up until August of 2011, retired, took 2 weeks off, and was like, well, what am I going to do with myself? So I started applying for jobs, and nobody was picking me up. Nobody was even asking for an interview. And I was like, oh my God, am I considered a retiree, military retiree that doesn't know how to re-blend and re-assimilate and back into the civilian workforce? And then happenstance, a friend of mine, we had lunch and he called an individual. I was asked by a headhunter to join a nonprofit, wouldn't tell me who. They wanted me to go around them because they wanted to be able to, you know, get the reimbursement for the referral. And so he made a couple of calls, and I went and interviewed at the San Antonio Food Bank in 2011. And 3 days after my interview with the vice president of programming at that time, I was offered the job and I went. And so August 30th, I started with the San Antonio Food Bank of 2011. And it just was a whirlwind from there. And I remained in the nonprofit sector. I always thought it would be a stepping stone to go back to the DoD to work as a civilian. But the more and more I got ingrained, I was like, this speaks to my heart. What the work we do speaks to my soul. I can leave at the end of the day, no matter how tired I am and how dirty or dusty and smelling like onions, like I know somebody was impacted from the hard work and sweat that I did, so I could rest easy at night. And so all that led up into me joining and remaining in the nonprofit sector, and now with the Charitable Foundation of Kronkosky.
Yeah, Louie, that's so good. You know, I learned some things about you, and I mean, you routinely speak at something I do where you're sharing just some wisdom, not only about changing careers, but sharing wisdom about the nonprofit space. And so I've heard you share your story. So there's things that aren't new to me, but I guess maybe I missed previously that you were born in California. I knew you were local here for a lot of your upbringing. So now that kind of bridges that gap. I understand that. It's almost impossible for me to think of you as a timid person.
To this day, people probably regret Sergeant Mendez, and they would probably like to wring his neck.
Because that's not who I see, right? But you know what, Louie, in fairness though, I think it does make sense in this regard. When I look at you, what I see is a man of tremendous humility. And maybe that's what other people back then took as timidness. I think it's a fantastic quality, right? Because it's really easy to endear ourselves to people who are not self-focused, right? So
Right.
Loved hearing some of that. Loved that you had some mentors in your life that really changed everything. I'm not saying this isn't true of the other services. I can only speak as an Air Force vet as you are about the Air Force experience. And I know sometimes we take good-natured ribbing from our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, right? About the way the Air Force speaks to each other in first names. Now, number one, I don't know about you, Louie, but I never called one of my bosses by their first name, but it never was a problem for me to have
Right.
a senior leader or somebody higher in rank refer to me by my first name. I appreciated it.
Right.
Yeah, because we're people first, right? We have an identity, and I think we perform better as teams, as people when we're valued in such a nature. So I loved when you said, "Hey, this guy walked around in socks," and right because he said, "This is my home, y'all." I'm gonna have to find a way to use that, Louie. Right?
Yeah.
I'll give it attribution. If y'all have never heard this said before, I heard John Maxwell say this one time, whether he was serious or not, I like the intent of it. He said, when you first read a quote or hear a story that you really like, the first time you use it, you attribute it back to, who said it. The second time you say, I once heard someone say, and by the third time you just own it, it's yours.
Yes.
So, Louis, this is how these quotes keep getting repurposed, right? They're like,
Right.
wow, Louis J, whomever using this quote, really, really smart
Right.
individual. For me, I can only speak for maybe I borrowed it. I don't know. So, Louis, that's cool. I've got to tell you this real quick. I hope he doesn't kill me. I'll let him know that we talked about him on the podcast. In this executive transition assistance program that I just finished doing a 2-day workshop on, does the name Sean Simeon
Oh my
register with
goodness.
you? So Sean was in the room, and I said, normally this guy named Louie Guzman comes and speaks, and he said, wait, who? Is that the guy that used to be with the food bank? I said, yeah, Louie. And he said, man, tell him if he didn't show up because I was here that's wrong. So I just thought
That's
I'd share that with you, Louie.
that's a wonderful name. That man has such light, such energy, true leader amongst men. I remember him in our time at Lackland. So that to him to remember me, it's incredible because I definitely remembered him. So I regret in missing that opportunity to be in
No,
the con.
no, don't regret. Y'all two can still connect. I'll let him know that we chatted. So Louis, let's thanks even for your transparency, just talking about your upbringing, right? It's like sometimes we almost suppress and hide or don't want to speak about, but these are things that make us.
Correct.
These are stories about our experiences. It has nothing to do with others' experiences. So I appreciate your vulnerability just talking about, what led you to join the Air Force and how you had to find yourself, and then how you've now ended up in this nonprofit space. What do you love, Louis, about the nonprofit space?
I love the people, and no matter what nonprofit organization, whether it's the arts or focusing on disabilities, children, seniors, the vulnerable population, these are it goes right back to kind of your what you do is the servant leadership. These are folks that want to make a difference in somebody's life. They don't need the credit for it. Nobody needs to know that I'm the one that helped move millions of pounds of food out the door of the food bank. Nobody needs to know that I'm the one pounding the keys here on grant applications that come in for funding to support these organizations that do an amazing job. It's just people get to benefit from the work I do. That's in the essence. That's all I need. I can go. My legacy will not be what I've done, is what people don't know I did. That is something that it really resonates for me, is somebody is benefiting from the hard work, the waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how am I going to support this organization, how do I get extra support from them and other funders to look at what they're doing and to appreciate and value them. To the arts, how do we get children to view the arts as something accessible and not that it's for somebody outside of their means and their level of income. It's there for character development and for to expression. So that is the best thing I like. And the team that is created around that and all the different organizations I've worked for have been phenomenal because it's all about giving back to the mission and doing the work and really uplifting the people that need to be uplifted. And those are the ones that don't get the credit, and always highlighting them, which I know you always speak about when we talked. And that is what I truly love about being in the nonprofit space. And in this role, as I mentioned earlier, like all the different things that happened to my family, now I get to help those organizations that were around back then to support my family and all the different crises and trauma that was happening. I get to support and help those by advocating for them for funds and to apply for grants and really wrap around them and who else can I bring to the table. So that really speaks to my meaning of life for me right now. I can't say that was me in my 20s and 30s. It was more self-indulgent, but you get that wake up call one day and it says, I got to be there for somebody else. And for me, that was the passing of my mom. When she passed, in 2000, May of 2001, I hated the world, hated, like, how could this woman who, in essence, was everything to me be taken away so early in life through cancer? And I even turned against my faith. And it took an individual to say, hey, let's go to church at the Basilica, the Flower Church over there off of Calabria.
Yeah.
It was a woman had sat down behind me, and I couldn't see her, but I could feel her presence sit down, and then I smelt her cologne or the perfume. And all of a sudden it was like a moment of clarity. Like it was just my mom had come and sat down beside me. It was like those moments as a child where the parents sit behind the kids, so when they mess up, they can pinch them real quick. It was a spiritual moment for me to say, you need to find back to your roots. You need to go back to your faith. You need to really look and stop doing things for you. And how do you make the world better around you and the people that you love, make them better, and people you don't know better? So that was a moment that resonates in my timeline of life on the next chapter. And so that was when I was still active duty. And I think that kind of set the footprints for where I was moving next.
Louie, that helps so much. Let me unpack a couple things that connect back to things you just shared. You know, there's this old saying that says you really don't know someone until you know their story. And I think it'd be really easy, Louie, for someone to look at me, right? I am a Caucasian male, you know, mid to late 50s at this point in life, and for people to hear my story and go, wow, right? He grew up with privilege, and I don't know what that word means, but again, perspective, just perspective. But in truth, I grew up in a single parent family. My two older sisters and I were raised by our father. My mother was killed 2 days before Christmas. We were all in the car together heading home from visiting relatives, and we were hit head on by a drunk driver. And my father never abandoned, ran away from his responsibilities. So he raised us on his own. And you said earlier, Louie, you said, you know, we always had what we needed. And isn't that so true for a lot of people? If we just reflect, there's nothing wrong with wanting, right? There's nothing wrong even with putting sweat equity in and getting yourself to a place where you can have more. It's what do you do with it? And for you, Louie, you're doing more. And not only are you giving back, reflecting on, hey, there were people for us when we needed them, and now you're paying forward. Which I think is amazing. You use the word, there are people with vulnerabilities. I've learned so many words from you, right? They may be changing names, but these are thematic words, or the lexicon of the word that we describe something, right? Like food insecurities is something you and I talk about. And when we talk about those that may be homeless, right? They're unsheltered. Right? They don't have steady roof over their head. They're exposed to elements and so much more. And Sherry, my significant other, and I, we've had this discussion many times. You know, I'll credit this to her. I think this is something she first brought into the conversation, Louie. But she said, no one wakes up in the morning and thinks, you know, today I'll be homeless. Right? Bad choices, maybe, right? Tough situations, who knows? But what a shame, Louie. What a absolute heartbreaking shame for someone to judge the life of another human being without knowing anything about them.
Correct.
One last quote, don't know who to attribute it to. I feel like I know, but I feel like if I say it, you podcast listeners that are dimed in, you're going to blow me up. And I don't mind you correcting, right? But I'd rather not misspeak. So I'm just going to give the quote, and then you all are welcome to put in the comments section of this podcast who it is. But the quote is, you have not lived until you've done something for someone who will never be able to repay you. So Louie, when I see you, man, when I talk to you, when I think about you, it's all the goodness, right, that I see you doing for others. And it's what you just shared. You didn't know that it was going to lead to this long-term thing. But once you got in that space and started impacting lives, not for glory, not for recognition, seeing the effect that it has on the receiving end, you realized you had a passion and a heart for this. Anything you want to add on to that as you're sitting here listening to me banter about what I heard you say?
No, those things I just learned from you, which is fantastic. Um, yeah, the ability to give back and to be able to help so many others that would never know me is fantastic. I will say there's always the other side of the table, folks that don't know your story, don't know your intentions. And so folks look at you, and the great Eric Cooper told me, Louie, everything is about perception, how people perceive you. I was in a meeting the other day, and people always see me in suits, and of course I'm not in one today, unfortunately, but people always see me, in suits, and I always try to do my best because my personal brand, to me, is a reflection of the brand I work for. I want to be a good representation of my leadership, of the organization I work for, whether it was the food bank, the Air Force. I think it instills that in you. You want to be sharp in your uniform, shine your boots, you have creases, like all those things still resonate with me. And my wardrobe has elevated and evolved over the years. Like I thought a polo and slacks was perfect, and now a suit with an ascot is my level up from that.
Yeah. No, I mean, you usually show up, and I think, please forgive me, listeners, right? It's always self-deprecating. It's not, you always show up, and I'm like, you can tell who understands fashion and who clearly grew up in Oklahoma matching, Garanimals shirt and pants together. So you're a sharp dressed dude, man.
Thank you, thank you. And it was an evolution, and so people perceive well, he's well to do, or he's above doing the hard work, and that is so far from the truth. So what you see on the exterior doesn't speak to the heart, and so it's just reminding folks, you show up as your genuine self, allow people to see you through your efforts, and to look beyond just the clothing. They say the clothes make the man. The man makes the clothes. You can put anything on you, but the man makes the clothes.
I love it.
You have folks that wear fine tailored suits, but maybe they're not a good person. Maybe they're more self-indulged. But just because of what I wear doesn't speak to who I am as an individual, or the organization I work for, or the house I live in, or the truck I drive. None of that. That's just all things that can all be gone tomorrow. And if it all was, I still am Louie A. Guzman. I'm still the person that loves and gives wholeheartedly, 100%. What I wear is not a reflection of my heart, my soul. It's just something I choose to be in, to show the world, like, this is who I am. This is my style of dress. But it's not saying that somebody dressing less than, or I would love to be in jeans and boots. But for the work, I dress for the occasion, and I dress for the intent. And so I think those are just some key things that's been a theme the last couple of weeks. So I don't even know how it ties in, but it's just something that has been in the back of my mind. Like, want people to know how you see me. Don't see me for what I wear, what I arrive in, or where I live. See me for Louie Guzman. See me for the heart, the soul, the care. Everybody, I embrace everybody the same. And there's some that aren't so, like, I'm not a hugger. That's fine. I can give you your space and still show you how I wrap around you through words and through affirmation. So I think that's key. And no matter what career field you're in, unless you're a boxer or MMA fighter, you really don't want to be caring about the person. But
it's funny to hear you say that, Louie, because just momentarily I almost misinterpreted what you were saying, right? I thought you said you weren't a hugger. And I think if I heard you correctly, though, as you built upon that, it's you sometimes interacting with others who aren't, and you're saying you can give them that space. Because I was going to say, damn, dude, I didn't realize that maybe I was invading your space, right? Because I generally shake your hand, give you a bro hug, and then I was just thinking, man, have I been, invading Louie's space all this time?
No, not at all. No. But I realized in this role, it wasn't until this role where there's individuals that have gone through trauma, and somebody getting too close just kind of puts them off. And so I asked, can I embrace you? Can I pay you a compliment? And so I'm really learning to
That's important.
Understand people where they're at and meet them where they're at. I have individuals like, I've been through trauma, Louie. I see that you're hugging, but so I just embrace them with words and affirmations, and just a smile does wonders. As the same as me, I want people to know that I care about them as people. And so finding that space, but nobody feels any less than, because whether you got a hug or not, my true and genuine self is, I embrace you as the person you are, and how I can support.
That's who I've always known, Louie. That's good. That's true. And I love I love your comment, Louie, about the dress doesn't make the man, right? The man makes it. And both sides of the gender, right? For people in
Right.
general, we're saying these things, but you and I, as two men having a conversation, right? The wording we choose is reflective of the lenses we look through. I love that you say that. There's some industries out there, Louis, that mandate almost, if you will, that they show up in a suit and tie, and I'm not going to call either any of these industries outright because I got people in them I love. It's not a, but it is a personal preference rather than have someone show up that way who maybe doesn't even have the business acumen yet for what they're doing to be able to help me. I would rather you be authentically you, be straight with me, and we can figure everything else out. I'm not impressed
Right.
because someone shows up with a tie or they drive up in a BMW, whatever, right?
Right.
That's fine if that's personal taste, but show me the quality of character. And you alluded to that. I wholeheartedly agree. Louis, let's talk about this little organization called the Kronkosky Foundation. What tell everybody what you are getting to do with this charitable organization. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, the Kronkosky Charitable Foundation is about 25, 26 years old in essence. Um, when it originated, it was through the foundation. The family decided to leave all their wealth to the community and in perpetuity. So a trust was established to create profound good in 4 counties of Bandera County, Barrett County, Comal County, and Kendall County. So we have 4 counties that we do work in. And there's focus areas that really support the vulnerable population. So when you think disabilities, when you think folks that are living with health concerns or health issues of cancer, going blind, losing their hearing, the disability population for the treatment and care, when you also look at the treatment and care of seniors or elder, I think we're using the word older, aging adults or older adults versus the word senior, because senior has a different cognitive as we like. I'm considered a senior by age, but I don't see myself as, so I'm an older adult, like, and so it makes sense to frame the words around the population versus talk to them. And then you look at the care and treatment of children and the protection of children and the mentorship. So we do a number of incredible things to support. One of my new passions that I never had up until working for the foundation is arts and culture. The value of listening to an opera or watching a ballet or hearing a play roll out or orchestra music and symphonic music. So understanding that, going to an art museum, and before I just kind of walk through, find something that resonates with me. But now I see the true beauty in all and how it really fully envelops around a child to be expressive. Because and most people don't know this, but during my military career, I was always trying to find things for creative expression. In junior high and in high school, I was writing poetry, just get things off, living the life I lived. Like there had to be a way to get out the sadness, the depression, the anger, even love. Sometimes you had to be able to express that. And then when I got to military, I started painting. I used to watch, I can't think of his name, the guy with the little hair.
Oh, Bob something, right?
Yeah, Bob. But you know what I'm talking about.
I do. Everyone listen. Bob, no, shoot, I almost said it. Everyone listening knows, and you and I are
But
struggling to come up with it.
and so I watched him and I said, I can do that, I think. And so I was painting in the military in Alaska during the hours of darkness. I had to get something to get my mind off of whatever I was thinking, being away from family and loved ones. And so I fully understand now how arts and culture really helps a child or an adult and senior in isolation to experience that. So we do that in these 4 counties. It's great to work with so many different organizations, and there's a lot of true passion that wraps around these folks, and that really is so inspiring to me to see leaders that are struggling. We're trying to figure out how to make budgets meet, and I have resources, I need additional staffing, but ultimately they go year to year, and folks are better for it. So working for the foundation with the focus of profound good. What does that mean? And it means something probably different to every organization on how they can produce good for themselves. But we want it tangible, and we want to be able to understand, like, and equitable, like, what does that mean? So it's been a great organization to work for over the past 2 years. I've just went over the 2-year anniversary, 2 years and plus some months. And our team is incredible, truly gifted, inspiring folks in their own sense. So we really crafted a great team to really focus on how can we do what we've been doing great and be better each day and with each opportunity to show, and how we represent ourselves in the community to be true leaders. And we used to be called grant managers, but our organization and leader and CEO is like, we need to bring us down from the tower and let folks know we're partners in what we do. So organizations have great conversations, just stem around, like, what are your needs? Speak to me the needs. What keeps you awake at night? Like, what are some of your challenges? Is it you need new desks, laptops, IT, or is it capacity? Like, I need somebody to help me collect this data so I can report out to get additional grants. Do you need a CFO? Do you need a development person to go and look for new money, which is what I did for 8 years for the food bank, and I missed the hunt. That's how we met. You offered that invitation to attend those sessions, and then the great gift that you gave us for the food bank. I do miss the hunt of new dollars, but that gives opportunity to meet new people and create new relationships. I need to be out facing. During the pandemic, one of the worst things that happened is when I got sick with COVID, starting at the foundation, I had to stay at home for 10 days. I was like, no, I'm not an isolation guy. I'm not a guy that can work from home. So I used to tell them, why don't all you go home and let me just come to the office, like just to feel I'm outside of my space. So, but it's a great opportunity. I love the transition from the food bank and then a small stint with Soldiers Angels, as you know, as their vice president of programs, back to the food bank, and then being able to come to this foundation to be able to work with those organizations that supported my family in our time of need and crisis, and then to see the appreciation and value of what every organization does to support our population and the community that we serve.
Yeah, really good. I love again just the way that you're able to organize your thoughts and build out a picture with words so that people can kind of hear the different things that you're doing. I'm a lot like you, Louie, where you were talking about getting into the arts and the entertainment kind of things. There was a time in my life that didn't mean anything to me. I think me being stationed in Europe, though the first time, I was over there twice during my career, and I was getting out in these places. Like here, our country, is 250 years old or whatever it works out to be. But over there, you've got centuries and centuries old countries with art and museums and sculptures and just things that in awe, most people will only hear about them in stories, read about them in books. And when you start seeing it with your own eyes, it really fascinated me, So when I just saw you made a post the other day on LinkedIn, I think, and you were talking about a local theater, the Brontex.
Yes.
And man, I have a heart for that stuff too, Louie. And I love seeing that those things are being taken care of, utilized, and they're still impacting lives. So I think that part is fantastic. Louie, are there others inside the foundation that do exactly what you do? And I know you named out 4 counties in particular that the Kronkosky is really trying to feed into. Are there others that have responsible areas different than you?
Yes. So we're a small but very effective team of 10. So there's 2 community investment partners. Then there's a senior community investment partner. That individual has a lot of expertise, and she was a CEO prior to joining the team. So she comes from a different lens. She understands some of the things that I don't have the lived experiences at. So there's 3 of us that do that. Then we have some other officers that work here that have a small portfolio. One is focused on mental health, which has a great background in that. Another individual is focused on nature and animal and the protection of. So that's her small portfolio. I have myself currently arts and culture, and I also have those with disabilities and health organizations. So like dental and like Team Ability, which works with children with, if you can imagine, a child with autism and physical disabilities, and how the care and the treatment and the therapy for that. So I have a wide range of variety. And so we all have our small portfolios. Some of us have more additional because my focus is strictly that, others that have other duties, but a small portfolio. So we really conquer and divide. But the great thing I love about this organization is because we communicate so effectively inter-office. So if somebody's talking to me and I'm busy one day and an organization has to, like, I really need to talk to somebody, no matter who they picks up the phone or get referred to, same messaging, same, dedication to that organization. So it's seamless. Whether you're talking to me in your My Portfolio, or if I'm out sick, somebody could easily pick up that phone and says, hey, this is what I understand. I know Louie has told you these things, and so this is how we can move forward. And so it's great for the organization to know that we truly are partners, and in essence, to do the most profound good for this community, which is what our founders would have wanted. The family would have loved to have Albert and Bessie May, Kronkosky. I think that this is what the essence of what they wanted when they said produce profound good, is that we're partners and not just managers of a portfolio. We actually work together with the organizations to help cultivate their needs and to be able to express that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good, Louie. What for any listeners that may even be in the local area, right? So you and I are in the greater San Antonio metropolitan area, we'll call it. Any listeners in the area? I guess they don't have to be, though. If somebody wanted to support your mission, is there a way to do that?
Yes. So what our foundation is in perpetuity. So they called it the Incredible Gift. And so the family, when they passed away, they put all the resources, and everything went into the trust. So we're in perpetuity. So we always have funding that we give out. The IRS requires a percentage of investments to be given out and distributed each year. So we're always in perpetuity. So if anybody would say, Louie, how do I help? What can I give to you? I'm always like, find an organization that could use your support, because we're good. Like we do what we do, but there's so many, we can't do it by ourselves. So, that's why there's a plethora of great other foundations. And when you look at corporate giving as well, through whether it's USAA, Valero, HEB, Greehey, New Star, like there's a lot of corporate organizations that also support. One entity like ourselves, we can't do it all. There's even statewide giving that happens with other foundations that reside in Corpus and in Dallas area. So if somebody would say, how do I help you, Louie? My offer would be, find an organization that you believe in, whether it's supporting children, dogs, the animal, conservation of land and water and resources, or seniors or military organizations. Find a true passion and where that lies with you. Do a little research, see how much of your dollar actually gets spent on programming versus overhead. Make a concerted effort. We all work hard for our resources and the finances that we take. So if we're going to make a donation, you want it to count, and to be, if you go gambling, you want to know that you have at least a good odd of getting something back. But if you're going to give your money away, make sure it's having true impact where you want it to see. So if you want animals spayed and neutered to prevent those being released into the streets or getting away, like that's a great organization. To find an organization that's doing that work. If, like myself, I'm a senior, like should I be now dedicating dollars to somebody that will eventually take care of me when I retire, that I have a senior community to go to, and so I don't feel isolated and alone. So it's finding the true path of where your heart lies and where you want your dollars invested in, that will have an impact in the lives or in the environment around you.
Yeah, it's really good. And you taught me this too, Louie, whether you realize it or not, years ago when we first met. And I'm going to assume this is true of a lot of these organizations you're talking about, right? So for our listeners, you just heard him say they can't accept money. There's already money in place, but the way that you can help is go ahead and make an impact, right? Bloom where you're planted. Somebody shared that yesterday in the workshop I was doing, and we've heard that term before, but that's kind of what it means. You're already somewhere. There's already organizations around you that probably could benefit from both your sweat equity, right? Roll up the sleeves, go get involved. And if you can't do that, or you want to do a combination of, then open the wallet to help them. Isn't it true, Louie? This is what I think you taught me years ago, that many of these organizations, it's more meaningful when you donate money, because sometimes there's matching partners. For
Correct.
every dollar donated, there's these other organizations that dollar for dollar match. And so it ends up actually being more than if you donated an item. I'm not saying don't donate items, right? If that's what you can do. In this case, I'm thinking in my mind canned goods or something for it.
Right.
I'm not saying don't do that. I just am encouraging people to research. Yeah, go ahead. What would you say to that, Louie? Am I close?
No, you're right on track. There's a lot of foundations and organizations and individual funders that say, how do I help you, an organization? How do I help a nonprofit get additional dollars? Because I can give you, let's say, if I was an individual, I can give $5,000, but let me help you. So you advertise on your website or in social media, for every dollar we get a matching $1. For every dollar we raise, we get a matching. So your dollar is equal to two because there's matching funds outside, and that a lot of that happens around the big give time frame for the local area,
Right.
and it happens just throughout the year. Even some at times we will like to nudge an organization to think, how do you think outside the box? How do you go collect new dollars? And its matching gifts are happening. Any organization definitely needs the T's, the time, talent, and treasure. I think I might be missing one. But to volunteer with an organization, what are the resources they need? Like if it's a food bank, can we collect food for you? If it's like Daisy Cares, which helps provide animal with pets with food and resources, if they need some vet bills, need food, and they also need pet food, and they also need dollars to help the food bank, dollars to help purchase food that they can't get donated in. So there's every organization has those items that they're always in need of. Giving of your time, giving of your talents. Like if you're a CPA, join a board and help orchestrate or work the finances for a nonprofit to save them from having to pay somebody in that regard. So there's ways to use your talents to help an organization. Any organization could always use time to volunteer with. And treasure, always they have the need for dollars. Operational dollars are tough to come by sometimes because organizations are found, corporate organizations and folks will look for, well, I want to sponsor a program. So that restricts the dollars strictly to that programming. And if everybody wants the same, like everybody loves pets or puppies. So if you can imagine an organization that has different levels of puppies or of animals, everybody focuses on the puppy because it's a cute one, but you have senior dogs that need to be adopted out and to be cared for.
Sure.
So operational dollars and donating without restriction really helps an organization be able to complete their mission and to be able to do the day-to-day business. So it's not restricted. So those are things to look for to get involved with any organization, is to offer any one of those three. Some people that are so busy like us, we're moving. If I can write a check and I can't attend, but I can write a check to you, that's how I give. And any organization would value that. Of course, they want to see you. They want you to volunteer, to attend a gala, but the investment of any one of those items is truly supportive of those organizations.
Yeah, I love that, Louie. I've got a heart for humanity, and I also have a huge heart for man's best friend, right? So you had me at puppies for sure. Daisy Cares, you mentioned them. I think you know this. Years ago, I didn't even know it existed, and they reached out to me and asked me if I would MC one of their fundraising events.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I was honored to do so. And in that process, right, of researching who they were and meeting with them, getting to know them, and you too, helping educate me, which is when you're trying to help people that have food insecurity and they're receiving food which is intended to nourish themselves, right, to sustain them, and they have four-legged kiddos, right, dog, cat, whatever it may be. That is also a big part of their life, right? Which can change our energy and, right, the expression of emotion back and forth between them. It just makes us feel better. And what you don't want is for them to take those supplies they've been given for themselves and then sharing it. So Daisy Cares comes alongside and says, we'll handle those needs.
Right.
For the animal, you use what we're providing to you and or your family for the purpose it's intended. I think unbelievable to me, Louie, that people make, that someone somewhere had the foresight to recognize that and to put something in place to make sure we're taking care of all the above.
Exactly. Those are the visionaries that look for the gap in service.
Yeah,
and
gap in service.
Truly, that's how organizations are founded and started up. I see a gap in service, and so it really ties into that giving back to those that they would never meet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So I feel like I'm taking an exam today, not because you've asked me, but I'm trying to impress upon you, Louie. I want you to see how you've positively impacted me, and that when you were speaking, I was picking up what you were putting down. When people say, how can I know what kind of organizations are out there that maybe that I would want to consider and get unplugged with, but maybe I just don't know the expanse of them. Again, fair for me to turn to you and say you taught me the United Way is a starting point. Are there any other starting points as well?
Yeah, starting with the United Way, because they definitely have their pillars of giving and what they look to support. I haven't been current with them recently, but they always have their safety net, like what is out there that folks are should be aware of. If not, people could always Google nonprofits for puppies or nonprofits for senior care. There's always opportunities to learn and understand what an organization is. You can also go to Charity Guide, which is an online website, and it talks to you about the organization. It'll give you, if an organization is, it'll show their 990s. You can look at what their finances look like, see where their dollars. If you scroll down far enough, you can see how much of their expenses go towards admin, how much is it actually in programming, how much are they spending in fundraising. So you can actually look at all these things to make an informed decision. This is my best investment, because you are investing in an organization for their success and for their programming. So there's ways to do that. And then word of mouth. Talk to folks. One of the greatest things that we're learning, especially in the disability population of organizations, is there's a community within that community. So the families that are attending, like Kinetic Kids, that provides opportunities for children to play sports that have disabilities, that builds a network of communities of families. So the family members can say, hey, my daughter is a little older, she experienced this. They can have these interrelationships with other families to build a network for themselves to offer, I've experienced this, or hey, did you know there's funding out there? There's state funding. You can go to Medicaid for this, and there's different things. So seeing all that unfold and unpack itself is truly these little pockets of ecosystems that are building around these nonprofits that are doing amazing work. So just folks, ask questions. United Way is a great opportunity to, in one, give investment dollars and donate to the United Way so they can continue their work, or just say, I'm looking for an organization in this arena, and how do I get involved?
Yeah, that's good, Louie. Thanks for that. We're getting close to landing the plane.
Yes, I'm looking.
I so appreciate, you taking the time out and value. And we always jokingly say on these episodes, Louie, because that's my thing. I always say we're getting close to landing the plane, and it's not because of our affiliation with the Air Force. Nah, who's kidding? Maybe it is. I don't know. But but I like the visual, right? As we've been flying and taking a lot in, and now we're getting to our destination. Louie, last thoughts from you across the board on anything. Like when you were stepping into the space with me today, was there, something on your heart and mind that maybe you were saying, I hope this comes out in the conversation, or just best piece of advice, anything that you've got to share with them?
Yeah, thank you. I think one of the things that resonated is as I leaned in to get ready for this interview, and I've been thinking about it over the last couple of days, is it's easy even this day and age for folks to feel defeated because of life experiences. It's easy to say, this happened to me, and they don't have a support system wrapped around them to say, hey, that's just a blip in life. Like, we can support, we can wrap around. It's easy I'm trying to be very delicate. Easy to let one life circumstances affect you the rest of your life. There's things that will happen to each of us. Looking back at my life as a child and as a teenager, escaping that to join the military, to me, that was a way to escape what was happening. And it was no fault to my parents. It was just life happens, and it can be very difficult sometimes. But always trying to see the positive note, or find, how do I make that next step? How do I evolve my life into what it should be? My mom always told me, you're tall for a reason. You speak in the way you do, like you have to show your heart is always on your sleeve. That's one thing she instilled in me. And she says, always give, even if it hurts you to give, whether it's financially or time. And then I had a friend named Donnie. That I was, right before I joined the military, his friend was Donnie. And I remember clearly when I visited him at his house in his bedroom, on a chalkboard, he wrote, for a friend, if I can, I will. If I can't, I'll find a way to. And so when I tie that into, like, that has kind of wrapped around me for years. And then I tie in my faith and spirituality. I always feel like if something is put in front of me, it's for me to act on it. When I look back on my faith and my God, if somebody has approached me for a need, or not even asking me, but telling me of a need, I feel compelled to, how do I help? If I can't do it myself, do I know somebody? And that has really led to me to ability to always remember things about people and who's connected to where, and really tie and be a connector of individuals, of spirits, of souls, just to say, this is how you can be helped, and this is who you can go to. So I think as we lean in, I look back at the life lessons of my mom, my faith, my career. I've never let a bad situation define me. I find ways out And I hope folks, anybody that's out there that's in the middle of a struggle right now, to realize tomorrow is always can be a better day. But it's the mindset. It's the take the lumps, feel the emotion, but you can move past and you can become a greater person and eventually be an inspiration to somebody else that eventually might feel that. So I think everything I've learned up to this day in my life that has happened, the good, the bad, and different, has led me to be the person I am today. And I hope that I can just continue to have people like yourself feel that, one, I embrace you for who you are. I care and love individuals, and I will always give of myself until my last breath will always be in that regard. And that I truly want to have an impact for those that will never know me. And that, folks, I think if you can find a way, we're all individuals. Nobody has to be the next Louie, but be the best version of yourself for the greater good and the greater being. And which I really loved about the message from the founders is profound good, profound good. So how do we say, even though I'm not a Kronkosky, I'm Louie Guzman, but that mantra, profound good, how do I produce good for folks that may never know who I am, but it has a ripple effect in life? I think I hope I summed it up well enough.
Yeah, Louie, it's every bit of that I took to heart. It's who I see you as. You are doing good. I hope you know that. You're talked about so favorably in circles, not for what you do, for who you are.
Thank you.
I agree with the way you show up, Louie. You present. I love what you talked about being written on a chalkboard. If I
Yes.
can't, for a friend, if I can, I will. If I can't, I'll find a way. That'll stick with me
Yeah.
for a long time. That's gonna be used, brother. Know that you just shared something with me, and I'm gonna carry it out there and share it with others because I think it's impactful. And man, I value you, Louie. Look, to our listeners, again, wherever you're at around the world, we're in this together. None of us gets through this thing called life without marks, without bumps and scrapes along the way. And man, if we can just express more kindness, be there to extend a hand, right? And you've probably heard this as I have. I know it's on a commercial that repeats on TV, right? Not a hand out, a hand up.
Oh,
I
amen.
fully believe in that. So I want you to know there's a lot of national nonprofits out there, all doing good. I pray that's true. Again, Louie gave you a way to go out and actually invest your time before your money, right? And go look at the 990s and see how money's being spent. But I can tell you where you can really make an impact. There are nonprofits right where you're at that you can go and learn about. I love the expression investment sweat equity, meaning Louie earlier talked about, servant leadership. It is something that I'm really sold on. And I always say servant leadership starts at the top and it involves rolling up the sleeves. And so get out there, get involved, impact a life because Louie, when I look at you, this is the word that I think of: legacy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And at this point in life, man, we should all be thinking about legacy.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Louie, thank you. I know how busy you are, and so I feel privileged just to be able to squeeze in some white space on your calendar. I know you make time, you always have, but nonetheless, I know that it's time. You have a lot of things you need to be doing. You're valued. Everybody, on behalf of Donna Hoffmeyer and myself, Jay Johnson, your host of Beyond the Frontline, we're so glad that you join us. We hope you continue to enjoy the content. This is a journey. We're trying to bring amazing people in, just like Louie, that are out there impacting the world in positive ways, bringing authentic stories for you all to listen to. You get to hear stories of resilience and perseverance and things maybe you didn't know were out there that you too could get involved with and find joy and gratitude in living this beautiful thing called life. So on behalf of the parent company, Coming Home Well, thanks for listening. I look forward to sharing with you all soon. And as always, again, leave us a comment. Let us know if there was something that impacted you in this episode. We'll plug in all of Louie's information in the summary. You'll get to get a link back to see about the Kronkosky Foundation, and we'll share ways that you can get in contact with Louie. Just be patient, right? Busy man. I'm just saying. Thanks again, everybody. All the best. Go forth and do good things. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Front Line, a podcast of coming home well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review.